In the last video, we talked about how to effectively apply divergent thinking, right? And we discussed the 4 guidelines, Osborne's 4 guidelines for brainstorming, and we settled on the fact that the most important of those guidelines is the ability to defer judgment, right? To take our analytical, critical thinking and put it on the back burner temporarily. But that's easier said than done, right? Especially in a world today that really highly values analytical thinking and critical thinking skills, right? The whole education system right now is founded on and reliant on the development of critical thinking skills. However, if we want to build our creativity, it's very important to learn how to defer judgment. So, how do we do that? Well, here are my 3 steps for effectively deferring judgment. Okay, so the first step is you want to affirm the ideas, right? You want to kind of nod them in, you want to welcome them into the room. So quite often, something that we do when we're coming up with our ideas, when we're kind of diverging, when we're brainstorming, is we'll have discussions. We have this kind of impetus to discuss, analyze, evaluate the idea. So our critical thinking skills kind of kick in. That's not what we want to do when we're brainstorming. That's not what we want to do when we're applying divergent thinking, when we're diverging. What we want to do is we want to welcome all the ideas. We want to create the climate and atmosphere that the ideas are welcome to come out. And in that way, I kind of feel that the subconscious gets the gist of the fact that the ideas are going to be welcome, and then the stream, the ideational flow, the flow of ideas gets up and running, right? So the first step, the first thing that you want to do is you want to nod the ideas into the room, right? I like to say nod them in, right? Affirm the idea. Say, okay, yeah, awesome, great. The next thing you want to do is you want to write the idea down. You want to record it, right? So you nod it in and then you write it down, right? So if I ask you the question of who are some examples of great world leaders? So if you were to say Genghis Khan, right, the example I gave before, I'd be like, okay, great, you nod it in, Genghis Khan, write it down. I'd write it down on a sticky note. I'd write it down on a piece of paper. I'd put it on the list, right? And then we'd re-ask the question and say, what else? Who's another? What else? Who's another example of another great world leader, right? And you might say Alexander the Great, right? Or you might say Cleopatra, or you might say Julius Caesar. And we just nod each of those ideas in. Awesome, great idea. Then you'd write it down, right? Record it, and then just repose the question. Again, invite more ideation, right? Who else? Who's another example? And I like to recommend that you re-ask the question with purpose, right? So instead of saying, okay, so what's another one? You'd say, who else? Who's another great world leader, right? So asking with that intention tends to invite the responses to come out. So just to recap, 3 steps to deferring judgment. Nod the ideas in, affirm them, right? Write them down, record the ideas, and then repose the questions.